New York didn't invent contract killing, but in the 1930s, it perfected it. The city turned murder into a business, structured, predictable, and available for hire. Prohibition had built the machine, but the Depression taught it discipline. The gangs that survived the 1920s learned that violence worked best when organized, not improvised, and nowhere in America was the infrastructure stronger than New York. When Prohibition ended in 1933, organized crime didn't vanish, it adapted. The old bootleg network shifted into new rackets: gambling, loan sharking, union control, and black market distribution. After the bloody Castellammarese War, which ended in 1931, mob boss Lucky Luciano and his allies created the Commission, a board of directors for organized crime. Its goal was simple: profit through peace. But peace required enforcement, and enforcement required specialists. When someone stole from the syndicate, broke a promise, or threatened exposure, the Commission didn't start a war. It placed an order, and that order usually ran through Brooklyn. In Brownsville, a tough, working-class neighborhood, a group of Jewish and Italian gangsters found a way to turn killing into a profession. They were efficient, reliable, and detached. They didn't operate for revenge or rivalry. They worked for contracts. The newspapers would later call them Murder, Inc., but at the time, they were just known as the boys from the candy store, the one on Saratoga and Livonia, sometimes called Midnight Rose, sometimes Rosie Golds, depending on who you asked. From there, they handled assignments that stretched from Manhattan to Miami. At the top was Louis Lepke Buchalter, a quiet, calculating labor racketeer who ran the city's garment and trucking unions with Jacob Shapiro. Lepke handled business. Others handled blood. He paid retainers to reliable shooters and kept them on call. He also had an arrangement, discreet but real, with Albert Anastasia, a feared enforcer who controlled the longshoremen on the Brooklyn waterfront. Some claimed Anastasia co-managed the enforcement arm. Others said his role was advisory. Either way, he was the bridge between the Italian Commission and the Brooklyn crew who did the dirty work. The core of that crew included Abe Kid Twist Reles, Harry Pittsburgh Phil Strauss, Louis Capone, Bugsy Goldstein, and Ali Tannenbaum. Most were from Brownsville's tenements, raised on street fights and quick hustles. They operated like tradesmen, disciplined, methodical, and careful about details. They kept notebooks of jobs, payments, and dates. They used ice picks, garrotes, knives, or bullets depending on what the client ordered. The prices varied. A beating or intimidation could cost a few $100s. A full hit might cost several thousand, depending on risk and distance. Their professionalism made them invaluable. A problem in Chicago? Someone skipped town owing money? A witness talking to the police? The call came to New York, and a man from the Brownsville crew boarded a train under a fake name. He'd complete the job, discard the weapon, and be back at the candy store before sunrise. Their system offered something no one else in organized crime could: guaranteed results without collateral damage. The Great Depression only expanded demand. Union rackets were lucrative but volatile. Business owners who resisted kickbacks or spoke to authorities became liabilities. As labor racketeering exploded, so did the need for deterrence. Every industry in the city, garment, trucking, poultry, baking, was under mob protection. Behind the contracts, behind the profits, was the same small circle of killers making sure no one got in the way. One of their most famous assignments came in 1935. Gang boss Dutch Schultz, furious that Special Prosecutor Thomas Dewey was closing in on his rackets, demanded permission to assassinate Dewey. The commission refused. Killing a high-profile prosecutor would bring too much heat. Schultz ignored the decision, so the commission issued a new order against him. On October 23, 1935, a team from the Brooklyn enforcement crew tracked Schultz to the Palace Chop House in Newark and shot him and his men down in the bathroom. It wasn't personal, it was procedural. In that moment, the syndicate showed how New York handled internal problems, quietly, efficiently, and without debate. By the late 1930s, the crew had become a full-scale enforcement agency for organized crime nationwide. Historians estimate their victims in the hundreds. Some say 100, others as high as 400 or more, but only dozens were ever proven in court. Among them were Joseph Rosen, a Brooklyn candy store owner who planned to testify against Lepke, Irving Puggy Feinstein, burned alive after crossing partners, and Whitey Rudnick, killed for suspected cooperation. For each case, the system worked the same way. An order came down, surveillance was done, and the execution was carried out with precision. But by 1940, cracks began to show. Detectives noticed patterns: same neighborhood, same style, same rumor trails. Prosecutors couldn't make cases stick because no one ever talked. Then one man finally did. Abe Relis, cornered by the threat of the electric chair, flipped. To save himself, he began naming names. Over the course of months, he mapped the entire network for Brooklyn District Attorney William O'Dwyer. Relis didn't just describe individual murders, he explained the system. He told them how contracts were assigned, who delivered payment, where meetings happened, even which officers were paid to look the other way. O'Dwyer ran with it. For the first time, prosecutors had a blueprint of the syndicate's internal structure. Dozens of killers were indicted, including Harry Strauss, Bugsy Goldstein, Louis Capone, and eventually Lepke Buchalter himself. The myth of untouchable enforcement collapsed overnight. Lepke tried to disappear but couldn't hide forever. On August 24, 1939, he staged a surrender through journalist Walter Winchell and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, hoping to cut a deal. It bought him time, but not freedom. He was first convicted on federal racketeering charges, then tried in New York State for the Joseph Rosen murder. After years of appeals, he was executed in the electric chair at Sing Sing Prison on March 4, 1944. The first and only major American crime boss ever executed by the state. Relis, meanwhile, met his own end before he could testify against Anastasia. On November 12, 1941, he fell from a window of the Half Moon Hotel in Coney Island while under police guard. The tabloids called him the canary who could sing but couldn't fly. Officially, it was ruled an accident. Unofficially, no one believed it. His death closed the door on the biggest inside source prosecutors had ever found. By the time the war years began, the network that had made New York the capital of contract killing was collapsing. Many of the gunmen were dead, in prison, or hiding. The few survivors blended into smaller crews or fled to other cities. The syndicate learned a new lesson. No system built on fear lasts when insiders start talking. Still, for nearly a decade, the city had been the hub of murder for hire in America. The reasons were simple: central coordination through the commission, a dense web of rackets needing enforcement, and a deep bench of men willing to kill for a paycheck. The geography of the city, crowded streets, quick getaways, 1,000 anonymous faces, made it easy to disappear. And the legal system of the time, slow and corruptible, gave professionals plenty of cover. New York's Murder, Inc. wasn't about bloodlust. It was about order. It turned violence into a commodity. There was a price list, a process, and a promise of silence. That's what made the city the capital. Not the number of bodies, but the efficiency of the business. When the pipeline finally broke under Relis's confessions and O'Dwyer's prosecutions, the trade scattered across the country, smaller and quieter, but built on the same blueprint New York had drawn. If you walk the streets of Brownsville now, there's no sign of what once operated there. The candy stores are gone, the clubs torn down, the names almost forgotten. But for a stretch of years in the 1930s, the city ran the deadliest service industry in America. Orders went in, money changed hands, and men disappeared. It wasn't chaos, it was policy. And New York, more than anywhere else, knew how to make policy profitable.